Hi everyone, and welcome to NBTV's first show for the year. Pretty excited to be here. I don't think we have done a live stream for a year. I think it's been a year. So to get to hang out with everyone again is just awesome. Been chatting with a bunch of people in the chat who've been sending us all kinds of questions. We also collected a huge amount of questions in advance through a bunch of different platforms. If you do have questions during the show, you can send super chats and I will be able to see them live. And also thank you to everyone who already submitted questions. We're going to be going through all of the things that you want to know about privacy. And I did want to just start off here, just like a little heartfelt moment. So if you look around, privacy is not in a good state right now, right? Surveillance has become increasingly normalized. It's a scary state of affairs, and it's really concerning to me. So it means a lot to see so many people here in the chat who care about this stuff, who are spreading this message, who are helping us shift the culture back to where it should be, right? Let's make privacy normal again. Let's stop normalizing surveillance. Let's push back, because if we don't push back, nothing's going to change. Companies aren't going to know that we value this stuff. We're not going to see products out there that satisfy our needs and give us options in this really surveillance pervasive world that we live in now. So huge thank you to everyone here right now, everyone who's been supporting the show. I mean, we are completely driven by community donations. So thank you to you guys for sharing what we create. It's all free educational content. So please share it far and wide to anyone who you think might care about this stuff. And thank you to everyone who's been supporting what we do. It means a lot to us, and this mission is super, super important to us. So we're just so delighted to have all of you here. So welcome to the chat. Seeing a lot of people messaging there. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat during the show, so hopefully I'll be able to respond to different comments and all kinds of things. It says there are no super chats. What do you mean there are no super chats? We'll make a super chat. I don't understand what that question is, but let me know if there's an issue there. All right, so we're going to be diving into all of the things privacy related and decentralized tech and crypto and all of that. We've got three main topics that we've divided all of the questions into. We've got privacy 101, we've got banking and phones, we've got privacy deep dive. So if you have questions, again, feel free to submit them as we go. Pretty excited to get started through all of this. So should we dive into it? Let's dive into it. And it's just going to be me chatting about all these things. This is all stuff that we cover on the channel. So if you want further explanations, we're going to send you to different videos you can watch to help you even further. But hopefully we'll get all of your questions answered while we're right here on the show. Oh, I was going to say something else, but I completely forgot. It wasn't important. May come back to me, may not, because I'm going to be talking nonstop for the next hour. I also wanted to let everyone know, if you wanted to subscribe to our channel, that actually really helps us. It helps us get boosted in the algorithm and gets us sent to more people. So everyone who's been subscribing and liking and commenting, that is actually a huge help. Now, one thing that we do like to do on this show, if you've watched a live stream from us before, it's a little bit fun. So we do have quizzes throughout the show. At the start of each block, there are 3 blocks, and at the start of each block, we are going to give you quiz questions. And they're all multiple choice. If you see a quiz question, then send us your multiple choice answer, and whoever gets all 3 questions correct, we're going to be choosing a winner to announce at the end of the show. And the winner wins the best prize of all, and that is eternal glory. The crowd goes wild. It's going to be great. Everyone wants eternal glory. So that is what's at stake here, which is a lot, right? So make sure that you get those answers in. It's just a little bit of fun to keep things going. So now let's get into all of the seriousness of privacy and why it's important and all of that. So before we dive into the first question, let's just do our first quiz right off the bat. First quiz question: what does DNS stand for? A, dynamic number system. B, domain number system. C, domain name system. Or maybe it's something else. Feel free to make your own. I'm sure they could have come up with better things for DNS to stand for, like docile Naomi soup. I don't know. That wasn't great. All right, you guys think of better things. It's going to be really good. All right, let's go to our first question here before I start saying ridiculous things. Number one, what is the 101 of privacy for beginners? This is a good one to start off with, right? Because privacy is a spectrum. It is not something where you will just end up at this final product and you'll have privacy and you never have to worry about it again. This is a journey, and it is a spectrum where you can have better privacy or worse privacy. A lot of people get overwhelmed. They think that they have to have perfect privacy, and they don't. Just making small incremental changes is great. If you can improve the privacy in certain areas of your life, absolutely do that. Super, super important. And some of the big things that I tell people when they're first getting started: ask, what browser are you using, right? These are super easy things to switch out. Instead of using Google for everything, why not use something like Start Page, which is a private front end for Google? Or maybe use something like Brave, which is a really great search engine and browser. Switch out things like your browser and search engine and get rid of your Google products. That's going to make you go a long way towards improving your privacy. So get rid of Chrome, get rid of the Google search, substitute it with something like Brave. There are lots of different private search engines out there. My favorite private browser is Brave, and within Brave you could use the Brave search, or you could use other search platforms if you'd prefer. So I mentioned Start Page, which is like a private front end for Google. There's MetaGav, there's CRX, there's Presearch. There's a bunch of different options. I personally like Brave, but just do that. Like, start with those big, low-hanging fruits that you can just tick off to get started. The next big things I would look at: do you write to most of your friends on SMS? Well, stop doing it. It's not private at all. Stop using, DMs on Twitter where you can, or DMs on Facebook where you can, and just opt for something that's end-to-end encrypted. I love Signal. There are also things like, Threema is another great secure messaging app. There are lots of good ones out there, but I would say that Signal has a great network effect. It's very popular and is also very highly regarded as like the gold standard in private messaging. So just start substituting that stuff. Then you can start looking at things like email. Are you using Gmail? Probably. Put your hand up. Put your hand up, everyone. No, don't put your hand up. I don't want to know. I don't want to know if you're using Gmail. Just don't use it. Substitute it. There are much better options out there that aren't analyzing everything in your emails. So I would look at things like Tutanota, Proton Mail, and we have deep dives explaining why they are better and the kinds of encryption that they implement that basically protects your data much better than Google does. So they're the things that I would begin with. We have a beginner series on our YouTube channel. We just got an anonymous donation on it for Center for Independent Thought. Thank you so much to whoever sent that. That is so lovely. And yeah, we have a book that also is very helpful if you're just getting started. We also just have free videos online if you wanted to check out those, and you could send them to your friends to get them started as well. It all starts with the really basic stuff, how do I use products and services that get rid of tracking links, things like that. VPN is another good one, and we basically go through all of those. I will mention, because some of you probably like, what's Center for Independent Thought? So NBTV is actually a 501c3. If you're international, you'll be like, why is she spouting numbers at me? It means that we are a nonprofit where you can make tax-deductible donations because we're creating educational content. That is our mission. We want to make the internet a more free place, a place where people can have free online expression, where they can protect their privacy, etc. So we accept donations to keep us going. You will notice that all of the products that I recommend, you can feel good that we're not being paid by any of them. We are telling you what we use. We are telling you what we think is helpful to you, and you can be really assured that we're not getting paid by them to say the things that we say. We think they're good products, and we do that this way because I just think it's a more unbiased way for us to get good information out to people. So we do rely on community donations as a result of that. So huge thank you to everyone who supports. Oh, and OHMS just became a member. Thank you. That really, really helps us. All right, next question. Let's go to, I was going to read the name and then I realized the name of this one is like a string of random digits. I'm not going to read that. How do you respond to people that say, I have nothing to hide? I would say that is irrelevant, first of all, because to push aside privacy as unimportant because you have nothing to hide misses the fundamental fact that people are persecuted all over the world, all of the time. They do have things to hide, and privacy is the foundation of their freedom. Their lives are often in jeopardy, and without privacy, they would not survive. So privacy as a principle is incredibly important, and we can see that as soon as we translate it to someone else's context. But on top of that, I would say it's naive to say that you have nothing to hide, because you're kind of making a gamble, right? You're saying that you are always going to toe the line, and you're always going to be on the same page as the people who have power, and you guys are always going to agree on everything. I don't know. History would suggest that that's not the case. We have so many instances where people can lose freedom overnight or lose freedom within a year, just according to whichever regime comes to power. So the fact that you have no say over who is going to be controlling all of the data that's collected about you in the future, who is going to be holding the strings of power, I would say the stance of I have nothing to hide is a little bit naive. Your data is forever, but regimes come and go. So I would be careful about what information has been collected about you, what people in power know about you, what corporations know about you, what governments know about you. I would just start to be mindful of that, because you have no control over who gets access to all of that information about you in future and who might use it against you. It's just about protecting yourself and making good choices now, just to safeguard against the future. All right, so let's go to the next one. We have from Effectual Poet, whoever that is. Thank you for your question. Do you have any tips or guidance on threat modeling? Great question. So threat modeling is the idea of figuring out where on that privacy spectrum is best for you to sit, right? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense for people to have Snowden level extreme privacy in their lives, where they're like, I wear a tinfoil hat and also have a tinfoil hat for my house. If you're not being chased by a state actor, you actually don't need to have the same level of mindfulness as someone who is like Snowden, a whistleblower who is actively being targeted by powerful entities. So I would say, like, to threat model, just think about like where threats might come from for you. Are you an average person, or are you involved in high risk work, for example? So if you were a whistleblower, if you were a journalist covering sensitive topics, holding people accountable, speaking truth to power, if you were traveling to a foreign country and you've said bad stuff about that foreign country, if you are a public figure, all of these people might have a heightened level of threat to be aware of. I think for the average person, we can make such a big difference in our privacy just by following, major changes that I've already spoken about. And the reason why the average person doesn't need to be worrying about being airtight is because you have to realize that with surveillance, it's not like this blanket where it's like the surveillance is binary. The surveillance is all or nothing. Different levels of surveillance will be employed according to the budget, whoever's doing the surveilling, according to, the person that they're surveilling and how important it is for them to know information about that person. For the average person, they're not going to be deploying things that cost egregious amounts. They're not going to be, applying those to 300 million people in the population, because it's just not cost effective. They're going to be using more blanket strategies, right? So being aware of what those blanket strategies are, and, things like they're getting data from Google, for example. All right, so you can cut out Google and suddenly you've made your life a whole lot more private. They're monitoring telecommunications channels. So if you're sending SMSs and suddenly you stop sending SMSs, you've just made your life a lot more private. If you're using normal phone calls instead of encrypted phone calls, and suddenly you stop doing that, again, you've made a big change in improving your privacy, because you're no longer susceptible to those blanket techniques that are applied to the vast majority of the population. So have a think about that in terms of your own threat, where you sit, and it'll help you not feel so overwhelmed at this world. You don't have to have perfect privacy. You don't have to be doing everything. Just do one step at a time. And every improvement you make is less data that is going out there. So that's great. You guys are doing great, even by being here. Like, you guys are just, you're proactively becoming aware of how your data is collected and how you can protect against it. Your league's above everyone else in that regard. All right, let's go to the next question. This one's going to be short and sweet. My Galaxies said, should we trust Alexa devices and similar products? No. We can probably move on right there. For the obvious reasons. You have microphones connected to the internet sitting in your house. That data is not entered and encrypted. That data is all accessed by Amazon. No, you should not trust it. They are collecting all of your data and monetizing it. So, yeah, I would be very careful of Internet of Things devices in general, not just because they're surveilling you in real time. And there was an article, I should have found it earlier, but there was an article recently, I think it was the top of Hacker News, where there was a company, it's like they said the quiet part out loud, right? They were doing this interview about how they're monetizing Internet of Things devices by using the microphones in these devices to collect data and then sell advertising. And it created an outroar. People were like, uproar. People were like, wait, my IoT devices have microphones and people are listening in and serving me ads based on them? Like, is this legal? Like, and so this company was like, they were kind of bragging in this podcast I saw about how this was great that they're doing this, and I think the world was horrified. So be aware this is happening. Microphones are being accessed, but on top of that, IoT devices are notoriously insecure. So when you connect insecure things to your home network, it makes it easier for someone to break into your home network, and then it makes it easier for them to hop to your more important devices. So I would be very careful what you put on your home network. But let's move on to the next one. Rock Solid Hope says, if you're setting up a computer from scratch, what is the best setup to maximize privacy? What OS should I use? What settings programs should I use or avoid? It depends on what you want from your device. I would say Windows is the worst computer. If you're choosing a new OS, don't choose Windows. Generally, Linux is going to be, the best bet for security, but and privacy, but Linux is hard to use. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend Linux for a beginner. Go to Linux when you're more adept at using your machine. I think that Macs are a good trade-off. Now, that comes with a giant caveat. Apple collects a huge amount of data from users. I do think they're orders of magnitude better than Google in how they use that data, but they are collecting it. What I would recommend is Michael Bazzell actually has an ebook that he's put out, which is about making Mac devices as privacy focused as possible. So it's about implementing firewalls and customizing all of your settings so that you can make your Mac device the best possible. He also has one for Linux, if you're ready for that. But if you do just want to go for something that's going to be easier, but you want to go the next step with hardening that device, I really recommend getting his ebook. I think it's $10 or something, and absolutely worth it. Plus, he's just such an amazing resource in the privacy space. I love all of the stuff that he's put out. And so I'll probably be going through and making some videos going through what he says about Mac devices, but honestly, I would buy the book and you guys can go and check that out. All right, next one. Do you apply the tips from all your videos to your life? Yes. So I actually love learning about this stuff so that it's one more area where I can implement things in my life. I have changed my opinions on lots of things as I've done different videos, and then I've done follow-up videos explaining how I've changed my perspective. But if I haven't done like an updated video, then yes, I'm still doing things from those videos. So like the VPNs that I recommend, the browsers I recommend, the practices in terms of like not having a SIM in my phone, for example, and just using a hotspot. They're all things that I practice in my life. And we'll go through more of them in this talk as well. Let me, sorry, my just pulling up my computer thing here. All right, so yes, and I think that honestly, I don't find it overwhelming, the things that I do. I like convenience, like the next person. I like all kinds of cool technology. I'm a technophile. I love gadgets, right? So I am testing out all the latest gadgets. And I'm just being mindful of which ones are collecting my data and which are not. And then I'm making adjustments in my practices accordingly. So if I know there's an app that's collecting a lot of data, maybe I'm using a burner email and burner number, maybe I'm not connecting it to my home IP address ever, maybe I'm always having a VPN, maybe I'm siloing the app on a separate device. There are lots of different things that I do to mitigate things, even when I'm trying out new products, but I don't find what I do to be overwhelming. I find it completely manageable for my life. I think that if anyone were to mimic all of the practices I have, I think they would manage fine. But obviously, it's just going to be up to the, to each individual person about what they want and what's important to them, etc. So we are going to go to the next quiz question. So we've got our block 2, which I want to dive into. Let me just grab a water. Nectar of the gods. All right, our next topic is called banking and phones. So we've divided a bunch of questions that we got into banking and phone segments here. Did we ever get a update on the super chat thing? The screen. No, I think that we didn't. Sorry, I'm just reading through my messages there just to see if if we got any feedback on whether the super chats were working. But I'm going to go ahead just with the quiz questions now. So our next quiz is: someone's about to take your phone. You want to protect the information on it. Do you A, turn the screen off because no one can access your information without the PIN? Do you B, turn the phone off so that the data is safely encrypted? Or do you C, put the phone into airplane mode and turn off Wi-Fi? So let me know which one you think it is, or create D. If you have better suggestions, then please feel free to go and make your suggestions there. I'm going to keep going with the questions for now, though. We had Amir Geek who says, do you know of a bank or way to shop that operates worldwide and is private? And Pattern Jugglers had a similar question, so I put them together. Are there any good privacy alternatives to online shopping? This is a meaty subject. And this is because the financial system is one of the most surveilled things in our lives. Again, we've normalized this surveillance. We shouldn't have. I think that it's unconstitutional and all those big words. But anyway, it is how it is. And it's very difficult to make transactions through traditional financial rails that are not surveilled. So there are a couple of things we can do. Number one, all right, I would say right off the bat, you could use cryptocurrency for online transactions. And some of you are going to balk at that idea. That's completely fine. If you're not comfortable with using cryptocurrency, there are other options that will at least mitigate some of the surveillance going on in the traditional financial sector. A caveat before I move on to those, if you're going to use cryptocurrency, not all cryptocurrencies are the same. Some are much more private than others. And how you use them is very important. So we've done some deep dives talking about how to use cryptocurrency actually privately, what to be mindful of, what's going to leak your data, etc. TLDR is never use even a privacy coin as pass-through privacy because it doesn't work. There's all kinds of pattern matching going on in crypto, and basically to avoid that, you want privacy at rest. So that's one thing that I will say. But now to get away from the crypto sphere, for those of you whose heads are exploding right now, one of the big things with all the KYC in traditional finance, one of the big problems that affects us as consumers directly is that we pay for things by giving over our credit card, and that credit card number, we have to hope that they're protecting that, but we also have to give our billing address and our legal name on that credit card. So now we have to trust that this merchant is keeping our home address and our name associated with this, and all of this information safe. And the fact is they never do. There are data breaches. Pardon me. There are data breaches all the time where this stuff is leaked. And now your home address and which companies you've purchased things for is all over the dark web and being sold. So to mitigate this, you can use things like masked credit card services. So I've talked about privacy.com before on the show. I think they're great. My Sudo also has masked card options. Basically what this is you are KYC'd with this one company. They are making it part of their policy to protect that information with all kinds of security levels, and that's basically the products that they're providing. And you can create all of these basically throwaway card numbers. So when I use this service, I can buy things from Betty's Florist, and I could just generate a one-time use card. I can set the amount, the maximum amount that can be deducted from that card is like, oh, well, $50 is the maximum amount for that purchase. And then I give them that card. I can give them any billing address and it will still be approved. And I can give them any name and it'll still be approved. So this is a great way to protect your personal information when you're making purchases. And it's completely legal. You're KYC'd with the card company. They know all about you. But every merchant doesn't need to know your home address. So it's just a great service that I highly recommend you integrate into your life. So that's basically what I would say for online shopping. And then we have videos diving into some other options and also some crypto cards out there. One of them that we talked about in our previous video no longer exists. So we are going to be doing a refresher on that video. But you can take a look at some of the options that we went into there. So next one, we have, what are privacy concerns when paying with a bank's debit card? So many, so many. So banks are egregious when it comes to selling your data. The credit card company is selling your data. Your bank is selling your data. You think that you have some sort of a private relationship with your bank. You don't. It's completely legal, actually, for them to sell your financial history and activities. So banks are really bad for privacy. I think you can use cash in person wherever you want because you don't need to be giving your bank a history of every coffee you buy at your coffee shop. You just take $5 with you. Just send, give them $5 at the cash register and let's make cash cool again, because I really dislike how pervasive surveillance is and how pervasive the data selling is in the banking industry. I think it's crazy. So I push back in my life. That's something that I do. If that's convenient enough for you, then I would consider it because the amount of privacy you're going to get as a result is huge. Be careful with gift cards in stores as well, because there's a lot of BLE tracking that goes on and it's pseudo anonymized until you pay with like a gift card or sign into your app for that store or whatever, and then they can link all your movements in the store with that payment option. So just be aware of things like that. We're also going to do a video on BLE because I think it's a super interesting topic. Let's move on to the next question. What phone do you use in your daily life? So I have every phone. I have so many phones. It's ridiculous. I silo apps on all kinds of devices, but my daily driver is Graphene. I love it. It's super easy. I will get non-techie friends who will be like, oh, but that seems really hard. And it's that, I have to custom install it and all this stuff. Actually, I have not had a single issue with my Graphene phone. It's great. I use it all day, every day. It makes me feel great that I have taken this huge step to protect my phone privacy. Our phones are tracking devices, and they are just sending out so much personal information about us and about our location. And we could do things to mitigate that no matter which device we're on. But Graphene is specifically designed to help lock that down. So even just using Graphene by default is improving your privacy. But on top of that, you can even customize your settings further, and have different profiles for different use cases, all of these kinds of things. Like, I love my Graphene device, highly recommend it. We have tutorials, free tutorials on the channel if you want to give it a crack. You can have a go at putting that together. We also have follow-up tutorials on more private app alternatives that you can choose for your phone, and also different Graphene settings that we recommend you customize. So you can take a look at all of those. All right, next question. How can I find out more about how to get one of those Pixel phones with the Graphene operating system? Do they come with any instructions on how best to use them? So Graphene is free open source software. You can buy the Pixel phone with cash at any Best Buy or equivalent store, whichever country you're in, and you put it on yourself. Again, we have a tutorial explaining exactly how to do that. The Graphene team is also really responsive. If you have problems, they will take the time to help you through that. So that's awesome. If you use Graphene and you love it, I recommend just sending them a small donation. Say thanks. They are completely funded by community support, and they are hands down the best phone operating system for privacy out there. So they're just providing such a tremendous service that if you're getting value from it, try and take a moment to just repay some of that value. They put a lot of work into creating these hardened systems. I benefit from them tremendously. I love them. So I recommend that you go and put it yourself. There are people who sell pre-installed graphene phones. I even considered it for a little while, but then decided that if someone wants graphene, I feel like that installation process is probably a good filter for whether or not they'll enjoy having graphene. So I think that installing it yourself is very easy. And there are lots of people out there to help. Let us know if you want help as well. We're always happy to field questions about all of that. And we have an entire video playlist talking about how to best use them, different apps, all of that. So feel free to just check out that free content. All right, the next one. Yeah, again, another random string of digits. User dash QE3ZJ5JC30. Rolls off the tongue. If I install Graphene OS, can I still use bank apps? The problem is they will probably require Google Play services installed. Okay, this is a really great point. So one thing that you need to know about with phones is that there are certain apps that do certain tests on your device to make sure that it's a safe environment for the app to operate. So generally they are higher stakes devices that need more security, etc. So banking apps are one example where they're going to do, not all banking apps, mind you, but there are some banks that when you download their app, they'll do some sort of a system test to say, is this a verified, Google device, or is this or Apple device, and is this trustworthy for this app to run? Because they want to have put security precautions in place to make sure that someone isn't, part of some phishing scam or aren't about to have all their money stolen. And the problem is that Graphene OS isn't one of these verified people, verified platforms. So when these tests are performed, it's going to come back and say, nope, this is not a standard Google operating system. This is not standard Google device. We won't let you run. So I would say if you download Graphene and your banking app doesn't work on it, first of all, it's super easy just to put Android back on your phone if you want to do it. So I wouldn't worry about wiping your device, putting it on, testing it out. If it doesn't work, just revert. Or you may consider having a separate device if you've got like an older device or whatever, and siloing apps on different devices for different purposes. So if you need that banking app, maybe you still have that iPhone or something and you can have your banking app on your iPhone. So you can kind of make that call. I personally haven't had an issue with those apps on my phone, but other people have. So it is something to test out before you dive into this operating system. And also be aware that most things work on Graphene. It really is rare for an app to not work on Graphene. And actually, you can run Google Play services on Graphene as well. So if something requires Google Play services in order to operate, you can absolutely install that. I don't have it on my Graphene phone because I don't need it. I don't like the push notifications. I don't want Google as part of my operating system. But you can if you want it. There are some people who still need that. So you can check that out. Okie dokie. Gosh, this is so much questions, and you guys are going crazy. I lied to all of you. I was like, I'm going to be checking the chat, but everything is just moving so fast that I have not even had a chance to go through and presume. I feel like I'm like, hey guys, give me 10 minutes. Just need to catch up on what everyone in the chat is saying. Obviously, I can't do that. So I just write in capital letters if you really want me to see it or something. I don't know. Let us go to our next quiz questions section. So this is the final quiz question. Be on your A game, because remember, you win eternal glory if you've gotten all of the questions correct. And who would want to pass up eternal glory? Because eternal glory is great. So quiz question 3. How do you minimize location tracking on your phone? A, put your phone in a Faraday bag. B, turn off your Wi-Fi and location settings and put your phone into airplane mode. C, check your app permissions to make sure none are getting location data without you realizing. D, all of the above. Or E, make up your own, because everything is more fun that way. So I will leave those questions with you. If you have your answers, send them on over. We're going to be checking, and then we're going to announce that winner at the end of the show. All right, let's go on to our C block now. This block is called privacy deep dive. So we're going to get a little into the nitty gritty, but not so much that you guys are going to be concerned about everything. All right. Ooh. So Bazzy says, don't use a phone. Also a good way to stop location tracking. Not terrible. But on this show, we don't like to tell people to throw out their devices. We want you to have options. You guys can live a modern, privacy-conscious lifestyle with all of the coolest tech, just understanding how that tech is collecting your data and making better decisions accordingly. All right. That was good water. Let's get to it. Tripskull says, next question. If I use Quad9 app for Android, what exactly is encrypted? And how much privacy is actually being created? Does it do anything to prevent apps from data mining? So privacy is, it's not like you can use one private app and it's going to make everything in your digital world private. Privacy needs to be applied at every level and everything you do, and you layer it, and it's a little more complicated than that. So what Quad9 is a DNS resolver. They are a non-profit also based in Switzerland, and basically their job is to translate or help your computer translate all of the URLs that you type in into IP addresses that your computer can understand. So basically when you type in www.nbtv.media/support into your browser, your computer's like, that's great, but I don't speak URL. Can you give me something a little clearer? So then your computer sends it off to something like Quad9, which is an upstream DNS resolver. And then what Quad9 does is perform all of these checks with the authoritative name servers that handle each, slice of the, or each cut as it's called, of the URL. So it'll say like, go to www, and who has all of the records for www. Maybe they've already got it cached. And then they'll say, okay, so MBTV. We're going to find out, like, where would that be? Well, it'll be located with all the people who control all of the .media sites. So then they'll find that out and get it back. Basically, they do all these queries with these authoritative name servers. And then finally, it'll get all the way down to the bottom and it'll say, okay, that URL is located here. This is the IP address. Send it back to Quad9. Quad9 will send that to your computer and say, here's the IP address. And then your computer will basically visit the IP address. So the reason why Quad9 is potentially good for privacy, a couple of reasons. By default, your DNS queries are all being done usually by your ISP, and your ISP is selling all your data. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So, when you type in www. I like kinky videos about goats. I don't know, whatever you're looking at. It's a weird URL to visit. Stop visiting that URL. You do you, actually. Your ISP is collecting that data. They're selling that data. They know all of the top level domains that you are visiting. They can actually see all of that. That's not great. So you could use a platform like Quad9 that says they're not selling that and they're privacy focused. But on top of that, DNS queries to authoritative servers are not encrypted. They cannot be encrypted, actually. It's the last part of like unencrypted internet that really needs to be fixed. But as it is, when you talk to authoritative name servers, that part is not encrypted. So what you have here, if you've got the authoritative name servers, you've got like an upstream DNS resolver, you got your computer. Now, anyone who wants to spy on you is looking at your computer and they're seeing what queries get sent out. Now, if your queries are going straight to the authoritative name server, that's all unencrypted. What Quad9 does is say, okay, how about we allow you to encrypt your queries as they go to us? So if anyone's spying on your computer, all of that stuff is encrypted. No one can see that. Then when it comes to us, it's mixed in with the tens of millions of other people who are making queries, so no one knows which ones are yours. And then unencrypted, we send it out to the authoritative server. So they are one of the few providers that offer encrypted DNS, which is between the client and the upstream resolver. That section can be encrypted. So that's good for privacy if you like them. That's basically the privacy that's being created when you use them. But does it do anything to prevent apps from data mining was the question. No. So that you need to be careful which apps you put on your device, which permissions you're giving them, what your settings on your device are, whether you have like location settings on. There's so many things you need to be mindful of with privacy. All Quad 9 is really concerned with is DNS. If you use a VPN, they usually handle your DNS queries for you. So that's also another option if you didn't want to change your DNS options. But yeah, we have a ton of videos about home network security and privacy and DNS and using block lists and using encrypted DNS if you wanted to check that out and dive into this world. All right, let's go on to the next one. Oh, someone says, it is I, Anthony. I love mangoes domain go to. So I love mangoes was an example URL that we used in a bunch of our videos. I don't know what it means to say like made it go to over 1,000, but good job, and thanks for the love for the I love mangoes domain. All right, next question. How can Tor be used for privacy? So Tor stands for the Onion Router, and it's a really, really private tool. It is going to slow down your internet activity a huge amount. But if you want privacy, it's really great for that. Basically, what Tor does is instead of your packet, like if this is your computer and this is the internet, instead of the packets leaving your computer, go into the internet, where the website that you visit knows exactly who you are and where that request came from, what the request is. It does a whole bunch of privacy enhancing things in the middle. It wraps up your query in all of these layers of encryption so that like you peel them back one by one, kind of like an onion, hence the onion routing name. That's where it comes from. So it makes a bunch of hops in the middle, so the packet will leave your computer and then it'll go to this node, and then a layer will be peeled off. It'll go to this node, another layer will be peeled off. It'll basically bounce around the Tor network. Eventually it'll go to an exit node where the final layer is peeled off, and it will go to the website you want to visit. The good thing about this is that website, it knows what is being queried, like what this packet contains, but they have no idea who sent it because it's been obfuscated amongst all these different hops. So Tor is great for privacy in that regard, and you can turn that on and browse the internet more safely. It's also great if you want to access sites that actually aren't indexed like normal sites. So it's what people use to access things on the dark web. That's basically what dark web means. It's not really accessible via normal means. It's like if you go to a normal URL, it's just a different way of setting up all of those sites. So Tor is going to allow you to access those unindexed sites as well. We're going to go to the next question. Someone says Tor was originally used by the CIA or the NSA. Did they not leave themselves a backdoor? So this is an important point, and I'm going to flub the origins of it, but I'm pretty sure it was something to do with the Navy. Tell me if I'm incorrect. But yes, basically, anytime the CIA wanted to do, or anytime like a government agency, for example, wants to do some sort of internet activity and data gathering. Let's say that they're like, oh, let's check on this website run by this, Iranian target that we're after, or whatever. If they go to that website, the owner of that website is going to see where the request came from and be able to identify, oh, that's a government agent looking at the site, and they'll get tipped off. And so governments do use Tor extensively. It was originally created by the government, but it was then made public because basically, if they had a network like Tor network, which is meant to make things more private, but only government agents were using it, people would still be able to identify them. Like, oh, I see someone's coming through the Tor network. It's only open to government operatives. So therefore it's, we know who's accessing the site. And so it's actually in the government's best interest to open this up to the public so that everyone uses this, so that all of their requests are hidden with all of the requests of everyone else using the network. Privacy loves company. And so that side of it, I don't think you need to be concerned of, but I also don't think that you should trust Tor completely. You should have layers on your privacy and be really careful, and not presume that Tor is going to protect you 100%, because there are honeypots sometimes on exit nodes. There are people who try to control lots of the nodes in the network so that they can try to correlate activity. That stuff does happen. So just be aware of that, and make sure that you're acting accordingly. All right. I like this. Joe Q says anonymity is either everyone or no one. Well, I think that, yeah, it's helpful. If you wanted to try out these privacy tools, as I said, privacy loves company, you're actually helping other people who rely on these tools. So let's move on to the next question. Harris from Cyber. Harris from Cyber says, I have, oh, did I? No, there we go. I haven't seen many holistic convos around low-cost privacy solutions like DNS, VPN, etc. in one setting. My assumption is that this leaves a lot of students and those without disposable income out of what privacy can offer. Any tips for those in this situation? I wholeheartedly disagree. So much privacy tech is free. So if you're not using it, you have no excuse in terms of cost. There might be a technical barrier, but there's so much free online content explaining how to use this stuff. I think that you should be diving into this. So, for example, DNS, I just mentioned Quad9, it's a free service. VPN, there are lots of good free services out there. I know that some of the ones that I like also have a free tier. So Proton VPN has a free tier if you wanted to use that. Proton Mail also has a free tier if you wanted to move to a more private email provider. Graphene, as I said, is a free open source OS for your phone. All of these things are free tools at your fingertips that you could be using to enhance your privacy. So it's not true that all privacy is going to come at an increased cost. If something is cost prohibitive, there are often more private alternatives that are cheaper out there. I will also say, though, that we need to get out of the mindset of using free products without thinking about how they fund themselves. I'm very mindful of companies that I use about how they monetize, because if I can't tell how a company's monetizing, I know that they're collecting some sort of data about me. You just take a look at all the free VPNs in the App Store. The vast majority of them are just shells that are collecting your data. They're literally just honeypots. They're trying to get people to download these VPNs so they can collect all this information about them. So yeah, I would be mindful of that. I personally love paying for privacy. And wherever I can, if I get something for free, I try to donate to them so that I am giving back value, because these developers are generally not well paid at all. They're very underfunded, they're understaffed, but they're giving us all incredibly important tools and valuable tools. So if you can, then send them some thanks, send them some support if you can. That would be, I think that they would really appreciate that. Speaking of support, that's really appreciated. So I just got an anonymous donation to Center for Independent Thought. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it here as well, to help fund all of our content, which also is free and for your educational pleasure. So if you like it, then please share it with people who you think would value from it. And huge thank you to everyone who keeps this channel running through your support. We could not do this without you. So we're going to continue to give you solutions, low-cost solutions. If you can afford to pay for products, we also give you some solutions for paid products that we really like. MySudo is a great VoIP app, for example. It is paid, but it's great for privacy. But if you can't afford to pay for things, there are definitely options out there that can help you in that situation. Okie dokie. So next we have from I'm not reading that name. Come on, guys. All right, I'm gonna read this name. Mary's Big Pimp. Okay, they asked, do you have any recommendations for VPN for Apple users? Yes, we do. So first of all, I would say my recommendations are the same whether you're Apple or whether you're Android or whether you're Graphene. For VPN, I really like Proton VPN and I really like Malvad. I would be very careful of VPNs. They are notoriously scams. They are notoriously owned by advertising companies. They are notoriously um, uh, recommended in all kinds of magazines. Like, what is the most private VPN? But then, if you actually look at who owns the magazine company, it's the shell company, it's the umbrella company that also owns the VPN. I would be super skeptical of information that you read about the VPNs out there. The two that I mentioned because they are very widely regarded in the computer security community and highly trusted by a lot of people. Um, so I would be very careful of unknown brands that that you don't have a lot of information about, because I think that VPNs are, they are so sensitive. They get all of our data. We're sending all of our traffic through these VPNs, so we want to trust them, and we don't want the rug pulled out from underneath us where suddenly we think we're protecting our privacy and it turns out we've just been handing over all of our data. We've got another super chat here. Make it. Wait, I've got to sorry, I've got to move this thing on my screen. I've got, like, the little settings bar. It was like right over the top of this Waymaker donation, and so I couldn't read the name. But huge thank you to Waymaker. I really, really appreciate you. All right, so on top of that, for VPNs for Apple actually has a thing called Private Relay, which is pretty good. We've done a video diving into this in the past, like how it compares to Tor, how it compares to VPN. Tor is the most private thing that you could use for browsing, but it's also going to be slow. And what Private Relay does with Apple is it's kind of a similar thing where you're dividing who sent the traffic from where the traffic is going, and it does that by basically using this like jump system, these hops, where we'll hop in and then it'll send to another server and then it'll send it out again to kind of create that distinction. I think it's really great, and I'm really glad that Apple added that. It is a paid feature though, so that is one of those situations where you have to be a paid iCloud user. I personally don't use iCloud. I for too long, Apple did not encrypt iCloud, and so I just got out of the habit of using it in my life at all. Now it is encrypted. There are still some things that are not end-to-end encrypted in Apple iCloud, in their services, so just be aware of that. But I think it's much better than it was. We've got Stephen O'Reilly donated 20 euros. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Stephen, or maybe it's Stefan. I'm not sure. Let me know if I pronounce that incorrectly and I'll just blame it on my accent. Either way, it'll be great. So yeah, Private Relay is actually a pretty reasonable option if you have Apple. Otherwise, I love Proton and Malvad no matter what OS you're using. All right, let's go to the next one. We got, this is JMX. Okay, this is an important question. Let's read it. JMX says, I value Signal app a lot and appreciate what they stand for. I contribute around £5 every 2 months, but their costs becoming more of a challenge, as they've talked about. Do you think they will have to let a big company fund them? Meaning, do you think they will have to eventually collect data from us to use and sell it? Well, if they do, number one, if they do, we will find out about it. It is open source, so we know what information is being collected and what isn't. Signal does incredibly well with protecting user information. They protect your privacy all the way down to how stickers are implemented. Like, they go out of their way to make this a really robust privacy option for encrypted messaging. I love Signal, right? They do have funding issues. You're absolutely right. And that's another situation where if you can afford to pay them and their developers for the service, I encourage you to do it. When you do, you get a nice little icon on your name. You get like a little badge to say, like, yeah, I'm a supporter. And I think, like, wear that as a badge of pride, because that's telling people that, hey, I care about privacy. I've supported, this cause. I highly recommend, if you can, donate to Signal, because like people all over the world are depending on the Signal app for their privacy, and they just do such a tremendous job. So yes, I would be worried about funding too. I'm not worried about suddenly data being collected and us not knowing about it. If something like that happens, we will hear about it. I don't think that something like that will happen. I think the community will continue to pull through and maybe increase donations, etc. We just got an anonymous donation, $5. Thank you so much to whoever that was. I really appreciate you. So yeah, Signal, I don't think we're going to get shocked with information is what I'm saying. And if you wanted to check them out and get a little badge, you can even gift things. I actually got a gift recently where someone donated on my behalf. And so I got this little thing show up and I could click on it. And then I got this special badge on my profile. So I thought that was cool. You know, if you're sending out presents to people, why not donate to something cool on their behalf? And then they can get the nice badge and feel great that someone is protecting privacy and supporting causes that are doing great things for privacy, and then, you know, also thinking of you at the same time. And I just think that's like a really cool way to do it. All right. Next one, Effectual Poet. I think this is the second question from Effectual Poet. So this is a dual question here. We have what risk levels are home security cameras like Wise cams, and when you give them your home Wi-Fi password, most seem made in China, and some people claim they phone home. Trustworthy security cam suggestion. And My Galaxy's had a similar question, so wrap them into one. Which security cam brand should we trust to monitor and protect our properties and businesses? All right. Really sorry. Really sorry to be the bearer of bad news. There are really no good options. So we did a deep dive because I tried to find this information. I couldn't find any information anywhere. So then we had to like test a bunch of products. So we had to write to their teams and try to get information. And we like uncovered all these people who were just like lying about the state of their encryption. But essentially, you can have different kinds of home camera setups that have different trade-offs. You could have CCTV, which is not going to be, you know, networked into the outside world. You just have like a closed source, a closed connection, and you can that like the good thing about that is it's more private, and you can basically just have it not connected to the internet, not upload to a cloud or anything. But the downside is that if you're storing all of your footage that you record at home, how does it alert you when you're out? Maybe that's a feature that you want. Or if, you know, it's sitting there and someone burglarizes your home, what's to stop them just taking the footage, you know? So there are lots of things to be aware of with that kind of a system. Now, there are other types like Ring camera. Ring camera is so bad. All of these cameras are so bad. Or like even the great, you know, highly regarded camera companies, security firms like ADT. Gosh, there was a few years ago this case where this guy's installing cameras on people's properties, like making note of all of the attractive women that he'd install it in, and then he'd just go and watch them naked in their bedrooms afterward. Like it's gross. So I would say, first of all, take a step back and think, why do you want cameras in your home? Where are the cameras located in your home? Are they in sensitive areas, etc.? Do they have microphones on? So even if the camera is pointed away from sensitive things, is it picking up all your audio and literally just recording your conversations that can be accessible to anyone? Like Ring doorbells, for example, are notorious for just having such a long trajectory of how far away they can pick up audio. So just be aware of that. So these IP-based cameras like Ring, which just connects to the internet, they're super easy to set up, but none of these options that we were able to find are end-to-end encrypted. What does that mean? That means that the company gets access to all of your footage and can turn over that footage to whoever asks. Part of the third-party doctrine in America means that you have no reasonable expectation of privacy when using one of these services because you know that you're handing off your footage to a third party, which means that if the law enforcement wants to come knocking, they're perfectly within their rights to hand over your footage without even telling you about it. So be aware of that. What is the solution? All right, so there are kind of like hybrid solutions you can look into. you could use one of these offline systems, but then use some sort of a third-party end-to-end encrypted service to get it in the cloud so you could still access it live. The best one that I found is actually Apple HomeKit. So what Apple HomeKit does, unlike many others, is they support different camera options that you could connect, but instead of connecting these cameras normally like you would, where you just go to the app and you use their, that camera's app to access everything and it's going through their servers, instead you cut that app out of the process and you connect it to Apple HomeKit instead. You're using Apple's apps and they're end-to-end encrypting that footage for you. You will lose some functionality if you turn on end-to-end encryption. You're not going to get the full functionality, but it is better than nothing. And it is still perfectly usable, and you have that peace of mind that it is end-to-end encrypted. You have to trust Apple, which a lot of people aren't willing to do, but if you are willing to use them, that's the best system that we found. Be very careful with Synology. The way Synology handles backups varies depending on which service you use. If you use like C2 backup and you're just uploading that footage and it's not easily accessible or whatever, you are fine. They end-to-end encrypt that. If you use their thing, I think it's called surveillance, Synology surveillance system, where you connect a camera and it's like this really cool kind of home suite camera setup, that's not end-to-end encrypted. And the way they write about it on their website is incredibly misleading. So be careful of that. They have different kinds of encryption for those two services. So yes, using Synology and their C2 backup is one option. I wouldn't recommend using their like surveillance home security camera setup. I would stay away from that. Okie dokie. Now, we did a big deep dive. We did 2 videos on this, actually. One looking just at Ring cameras and their partnership with law enforcement, where they're just handing over your data. And we did another one. You can see that on the screen there, who can access your home cameras. If you wanted to dive into specific brands that we have covered. We also uncovered like Eufy was lying about end-to-end encryption on their page. We wrote to them to clarify what they mean by end-to-end encryption. That they completely were not end-to-end encrypting their footage. So that was an interesting thing to discover in the process of that video. All right, now we have a question by Celestial Tofu. I like that. Celestial Tofu. Would you personally recommend Proton Pass for Proton Mail users, or is it more prudent not to put all your eggs in one basket? I think that Proton is a good brand, but I think you've hit on something important there, that if you can hedge your risk by using different services for different things, if one service gets breached or goes down or whatever, you don't lose access to everything. So I think it is prudent to use different services. There are lots of great password managers out there. There are ones you can use completely offline, like KeePass XC. There are cloud-based ones that are good, like 1Password, Dashlane. I think LastPass has had a lot of issues. I would not recommend them based on how they've handled past breaches and things, but there are a lot of great ones to choose from, so you don't necessarily need to rely on Proton Pass if you're already a Proton Mail user. Proton has some great products in their suite that I don't think have comparable offerings elsewhere. So if you are going to bulk use a bunch of things from them, I think there are better things that you can choose and maybe outsource your password manager to someone else. Okie dokie. So we're going to go to our quiz results. Someone said, Joe Q says, you don't have a SIM in your phone, so what do you do when you're not home? Ooh, that is such a good question. We have a video that is coming out in 2 weeks about that, so stay tuned and you can check that out. So we have our quiz results here. I'm going to bring up the results. The first question that we asked, what does DNS stand for? I hope there were some fun suggestions in the comments for that. The correct answer was C, domain name system. So well done to everyone who got that. Number 2, someone is about to take your phone. You want to protect the information on it. Do you? The correct answer here is B, turn the phone off so that the data is safely encrypted. Now, we've gone over this in videos before. We talked about this in our last Graphene video. Basically, if you just turn the screen off on your phone, so let me back up a little bit. Like iPhones, Graphene phones, for example, they are encrypted, They're encrypting your data by default, right? But sometimes it can be easy to break into them depending on what you do. Now, when you restart your device and put your PIN in for the first time, you've basically just given your phone access to that PIN so that it doesn't have to keep asking you for information as it decrypts data to access it. You're basically giving your phone access to that PIN. The problem is that if you then just turn off the screen and someone physically has access to your device, they can actually lift that PIN out and decrypt your device. They can't do this if the phone's shut off. So if you want to securely encrypt the device, when I say securely encrypt the device, it's encrypted regardless, but it's securely being the operative word. Basically, when you reboot the device, before you've put in a PIN, that's when it's most secure, when it is turned off or just turned on and hasn't yet had a PIN put in. So keep that in mind if you're in a delicate situation and you want to protect your data. Rebooting it is a great idea, and just don't put that PIN in again. All right. Our third question was, how do you minimize location tracking on your phone? A, put your phone in a Faraday bag. B, turn off your Wi-Fi and location settings or put your phone into airplane mode. C, check your app permissions to make sure none are getting location data without you realizing. D, the correct answer is D, all of the above, because all of those things are crucial. We just did a video talking about location tracking, but there are also other things to consider, things like BLE, which we're going to dive into in a video on its own. But now we are going to announce our winner, because that's all we care about, right? We care about eternal glory. So for this, I'm going to do a drum roll, and then my producer and the director of the show is going to hop on and announce our winner. So Sam, you wanna hop on the show, turn on your microphone. Brrr, I'm going to do a drum roll back here in the background. It's going to be really good.
Happy 2024, everybody. User David E, I should say. David E, you have achieved eternal privacy beat glory. Congratulations.
Wow, congratulations, David E. Eternal privacy beat glory is all of yours for the taking. But you know what? Because we're generous people here at NBTV, all of you have achieved eternal privacy beat glory by being here, for caring about privacy, for stepping up, for taking control of your digital lives. You deserve all of our, congratulations and respect, because this is a hard road. It can be overwhelming, but you guys are doing awesome. So the fact that you care, the fact that you are joining us in shifting the cultural narrative around privacy, in making privacy normal again, we salute all of you. Thank you for doing all of this and for caring. Honestly, it makes all the difference. Without you guys telling companies what you like, telling companies that you don't want to be spied on, telling governments that you don't want to be spied on, without you guys being vocal about your preferences, no change ever happens. So thank you. Thank you for caring. It means so much. And let us know how we can help you in this journey. We want to make your lives as free as possible in the online world, as private as possible. We are here to help. If you have tutorials you want to learn about, you have things to do with privacy you want to learn about, let us know, and maybe we can make videos about them. But wait, someone says, please get to Waymaker's question. What was the question? Did I see a question? Waymakers. Will, tell me what the question is, because I didn't see any question from Waymaker. Did I miss it? All right, Waymaker question. Thoughts on Malvad browser? Malvad browser. Okay, so let me pull up. There's a great website that I highly recommend that you guys all check out if you want to compare browsers. So let me scroll here. It's called privacytests.org. I'm just going to post this link in the chat right now so you can see that. And if you go to that website, you are going to see all the major browsers compared, and you will be compared with all kinds of random things that you probably won't understand, but basically it's a comparison that dives into the nitty-gritty of what exactly is going on in your browser to protect your privacy. Now, according to this, Malvad fares really well. So yeah, according to this, I would recommend that as well. I think that it seems like a really solid product, a lot of green ticks in here. I think that Brave does best in terms of all of the ticks for a lot of of the sections. But then there is a section for cross-section third-party tracking tests that Molvat actually seems to perform a little better in. So both are really great options. There are also some other options in there that you can check out if you care about privacy, but highly recommend that you lean on sites like this that are helping put together data for you so that you can live a more free life and protect your privacy online. All right, anything else? I'm just taking a quick look at the chat to make sure I haven't missed anything. La la la. All right, you guys all look great. All right, you guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Thanks to everyone who's donated. We could not make this channel without your support. You help us make all of the content that we put together. So hopefully it's helpful to you. If you could subscribe before you leave, that would be amazing. That helps us as well. And then we also have a beginner's introduction to privacy, a book that you could download if you're interested in this. If you don't want to buy it from Amazon, you can also purchase that directly from us as a PDF. And we also accept privacy coins, mainly privacy coins like Zcash, but if you have other cryptocurrencies you prefer to pay with, we also accept that. So that is everything. We love all of you. Thank you for being here. Happy 2024. I feel like this is our year, guys. This is the year for privacy. Let's go and crush it. Let's go and live our most surveillance-free lives. If you guys need help, let us know. We will be right here, where we always are, answering your questions. Have a wonderful rest of your day.